the latest in the Platner saga, and we should say, like, I said this is obviously Oppo research. It was dumped. I think there's two or three things as the meta story around it is important to note. They don't dump opposition research this early in a campaign unless they feel incredibly desperate. I mean, Mills must have had internal polling that showed her like the race completely out of reach.
We don't really fully need that much internal polling because there was a poll that came out this morning, and yes, this is like the day after or on the day in terms of when the samples
doesn't include any of the so-called scandal stuff.
Well, it includes, I think, the Reddit stuff, but not maybe the tattoo piece that has developed over the last 72 hours. But it shows him with an over 30-point lead on her, with a policy set that is straightforwardly against the genocide in Gaza and is oriented towards working class people. And
I imagine also his age, frankly, is part of it. Now, there's other candidates in the race that didn't catch fire. So Platner addresses the issue of his tattoo, which is the Totenkopf?
Totenkopf.
Totenkopf. I personally have never heard of it, but and he's had this tattoo for 18 years, I guess. And again, this is a piece of evidence that one could say, like, trying to get a sense of like who the guy actually is. But we also have access to all of these posts that he made on Reddit for the past 10 years in this, sort of like a comment dump. And there's nothing that would substantiate any concept of being a Nazi to the extent that we can make an assessment of any of that stuff and characterize it within that. Is the vast majority of his anti-Nazi stuff.
Anti-fascist explicitly, and even his Blackwater stint, we were talking a little bit off air. Is this not common, Brian, with people who don't have, are like trying to find work after being in the military?
Specifically the infantry. I mean, what you got to understand is that you don't have much of a job skill when you leave the infantry. And so if you're trying to make money and you're getting at that's such an easy pipeline because, like, what else are you going to do?
And he quit after 6 months and spoke about it as something that radicalized him. So I'm... Bernie Sanders does very well in Maine. The more populist anti-establishment type politics do really well in Maine. And that's why Bernie Sanders is standing by Graham Platner so aggressively. And I agree with his decision. And I think that this explanation from Platner makes total sense.
Hey, everyone. Graham Platner here. I want to talk to you about something. In 2007, when I was a young infantry sergeant in the Marine Corps, myself and some machine gunners I served in Fallujah and Ramadi with were on our third deployment. We were in a naval vessel and we pulled in for a Liberty port in Split, Croatia. We went ashore to do the thing that young Marines do, which tends to be carousing and sometimes getting tattoos. We wanted to get something that represented our jobs, our service, fighting in Fallujah and Ramadi as machine gunners. We went ashore, we found a tattoo parlor after a fair amount of heavy carousing, and we found a tattoo on the wall, a piece of flash that looked like a terrifying skull and crossbones. We thought it looked cool, and so we got it. I have had this tattoo for the last 18 years. I re-enlisted into the United States Army with this tattoo, where I was screened for hate and gang-related tattoos. I worked for the State Department as a contractor, where I got a full physical, which included screening my tattoos. I've gone through life with this thing, taking my shirt off, having photographs taken, videos taken. I've been very, very open in my life with the fact that I had a skull and crossbones on my chest, because that's what I thought it was. It's come to my attention that it has a stark resemblance to a symbol that is used by neo-Nazis. And I want to say that was not the intent at all. And the idea that I've been going around with something like that utterly horrifies me. I know that symbols like this can be incredibly damaging to people, and the idea that I've had it all these years and it could have been read like that is incredibly troubling. I have lived a life dedicated to anti-fascism, anti-racism, and anti-Nazism. I think that racism and anti-Semitism are a long scourge on our society and a long scourge on our politics, and I think it has no place in our world. For that reason, I have gone and gotten it covered up. Last night, I went to a tattoo parlor and I got this to cover up the skull and crossbones. It's a Celtic knot with some imagery around dogs because my wife Amy and I have two wonderful dogs that we love a lot. This far more represents who I am now than even the skull and crossbones did, which I thought that it was. This has come up because the establishment is trying to throw everything it can at me. It is terrified of what we are trying to build here. Every second we spend talking about a tattoo I got in the Marine Corps is a second we don't talk about Medicare for all. It's a second that we don't talk about raising taxes on the wealthy. It's a second we're not talking about the material struggles of Mainers as they try to scrape through a system that at its core is trying to rob them. And that's why tonight, I'm just going back right out on the road. We're holding a town hall in Ogunquit, where much like I've been doing for the past month, going around the state of Maine, making myself accessible to Mainers in their communities so I can listen to them. I can hear about what it is they need to change in our political system. And that is what I'm going to continue dedicating my time to. Thank you all very much, and I really appreciate your support through all of this.
And we have a little footage of that town hall too, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Sam.
but before we show the footage of the town hall, let's characterize Ogunquit because Brian has been up there, and I spent a summer there, as a college kid working. I'm not going to go into the stories, but I was there 40 years ago, and it's a really sort of bizarre mix of a town. Like it's a beach town, the summer population I'm sure is sort of like a little bit different, but like it was a big mix of like French Canadian tourists. There's a strong gay population in Maine. I mean, I should say Ogunquit. Just like international tourists that come in during that year, but
what
the
size
town
of the
itself,
city is it?
1,400 people.
So it's not that large.
No.
And I don't have a sense of where it is economically. At the time, it was just, down the road from Kennebunkport, which is much more sort of like a ritzy, old money town. Ogunquit is, I don't know.
Working class. Like the medium income is somewhere around like 60, 70,000, I think.
And this is, so with that context, what, 1,400 people live in the town, you said?
Yeah, around 1,400.
How many people are at this rally of his?
600, according to them.
600 people.
Almost half yeah.
That's crazy.
I think it's entirely reasonable that he maybe didn't know the origin. I didn't know when I saw it. I mean, I think I'm fairly well educated. I didn't know that was that kind of symbol. And then also, if you think you're going through these kinds of screenings with the government, you might just assume that, especially if you and your other friends have matching tattoos, that it's okay. And look, the discourse on Twitter or within like leftist kind of circles on the internet is just not matching what we're seeing in Maine in terms of the poll numbers. And if you look into like the crosstabs of who Platner is appealing to, it's like some of the best numbers I've seen for a primary candidate that speaks about like Medicare for all and billionaires in this way. And if people want to go back and listen to our interview with him or my interview with him from a few months ago, my opening question to him was, are you another Fetterman? And he unequivocally answered no and explained why. And much of it is oriented around his desire to end the genocide in Gaza, and he speaks about that incredibly clearly. And, you know, like to rebuild the Democratic Party in a way that isn't these like focus tested, squeaky clean, professional class candidates that always underperform in states like Maine. The folks have to have some sort of like reckoning with the fact that like we're not going to just dismiss people because they're veterans or something like that. There may be some things in their history that they'll have to explain. It may not necessarily be that squeaky clean, especially because there's no equivalent left-wing oppo research dump capacity for these centrist candidates that can be deployed on them in this way. People have to understand that this is specific to Maine and their political environment, and this is a much more rural state. And in the same way that you had a lot of liberals get upset that Bernie Sanders is a little more Second Amendment than Hillary Clinton was in 2016, Platner is going to be more of a Maine kind of rural Democrat. And folks should probably try to accept that, because we're trying to elect the people that are most likely to vote to end the genocide in Gaza, to vote to raise taxes on billionaires, and to make this country more livable for everybody. And I just, I want us to be more strategic here, and in our coalition understanding that a Democrat like Zoran's politics aren't going to look exactly the same as Platner's and his platform, but the important fundamental foundation is what's key, which are the things I just mentioned. Going after, taxing the rich aggressively and reorienting our foreign policy in a way so that we're not committing genocide. And I am convinced that he is by far the best candidate still in that race to do that.
Anyway, the attack is now that he joined a socialist paramilitary group. So
but here's also the other, there's one other argument. It is extremely important in this election for the Democrats to make ground, if not take the Senate as well. And yes. I'm sorry. There are two options in Maine in this primary race, and it's Platner and it's Mills. And the idea that Janet Mills could beat Susan Collins is absurd. It's patently absurd. I understand she's won governor 2 times in a row. She's older than Collins. I think it's absurd, because she's not offering anything that differentiates her from her. She herself said that she's doing a good job. Like, what is the point of her campaign? We know that she was she was recruited and she was reluctant to run. So even if you are looking at this from a Democratic, moderate, centrist, whatever you want to call it, perspective, the bottom line is that seat needs to be taken. And Platner has caught on fire. Let me read a couple IMs, because I think we get all different perspectives on here. Future reactionary. His inability to get a job is literally the story of Rambo. DSA Aaron in Atlanta. Very disappointed of MR Crew defending Platner. He's a war criminal and a baby killer. 4 tours in Blackwater. All the normal guys get out after 1 tour. He did 4. Dude is a
I don't think that's
idiot.
factually accurate.
What are you talking about? During the war, a lot of people weren't even allowed to be discharged. They were kept on hold and redeployed over and over and over again. You don't know what you're talking about. Cole
and when he worked as a contractor, I don't know if it was for Blackwater or who, but he was working as a guard for the State Department.
But let's throw veterans under the bus as a political movement. That seems really smart. That's how we win. We do a 50-state Democratic Party now, is we throw veterans under the bus, apparently.
Pat from Michigan. I feel like your defense of Platner is too focused on what's in his heart. One of bigger issues, it will be easy for the GOP to explain away the Nazis and their myths when they can just say, why can the Dems forgive and forget? We can't. We might know
because
that argument
is not making watermelon jokes. Sorry.
Yes, listen, again, I said this the other day about Hegseth. If the only thing about Pete Hegseth that was fascistic was his tattoo, we would be in much better shape. But if you look at his associations, if you look at what he has said, if you look at what he has done in his career, that the tattoo just becomes one piece of a body of evidence that this guy's a fascist.
Yeah, it's just a tag for it.
And I'm sorry, but the Fetterman thing too is important. Fetterman was taking big donor Israel money, courting the AIPAC lobby. Graham Platner is running on a platform of small dollar contributions. Do we suddenly not care about that? Another thing. Do we suddenly not care about the fact that you have these publications running with this right-wing, that magazine that had that anonymous
Jewish
quote
Insider.
by him, Jewish Insider? This is coming from Zionists in many ways. I would not be shocked. It's at the very least coming from moneyed interests. But it's not a coincidence that these attacks are ramping up as he's been so unequivocal about the ending the genocide in Gaza. We have to be more disciplined as a movement and not fall for this kind of stuff immediately. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to see this reaction.
Future reactionary. I feel underreported story is what does it say about the military's rigorous screening process? Yeah, indeed. I mean, I definitely think that he must have been under the assumption that if the tattoo was problematic, he would have been called out by the military. Ryan the Mainer, I still support Platner. Yeah, his tattoo isn't great, but sending Mills to Washington or sending Collins back is far worse. I think that's ultimately the easiest. That's the nub of it. I mean, people can argue as to how enthusiastic you should be about it, but I want to hear the case for Mills.
Yeah.
We have two options. I want to hear the case that Mills is going to be better on all the issue sets that people, I presume within the context of this audience, support. And B, I want to hear the case that she's going to beat Susan Collins, presuming that she's still vigorous enough to campaign by the time that the election rolls around. But you got to make that case. Nancy Bass, I'm about a half hour behind, but I just want to say I would double my monthly contribution if you brought Sliwa on as a co-host. That would be fun, actually, for like a week.
Yeah. And not in studio.
It would get old. It would get old after a couple of days.
I feel like you would eat food that would smell bad and stuff. It would just be annoying.
Future reactionary. Brian, can we get a quick rundown of the most wild sounding names of these Maine towns?
No.
Is Algonquin wild sounding? It's an indigenous name.
Yeah, it's Algonquin.
New Jersey mailman. I'm sorry. Joining Blackwater is not a normal thing for vets to do. I know plenty of grunts who never did that, especially for Blackwater. It might be a nothing burger, but we should know more about his time as a contractor.
Brian, go.
No, I'm sick of this.
All right.
Listen. I don't like talking when I'm angry.
Okay.
I'll say something stupid.
Wow. All right. I've never seen this.
It's a lot of people. I'm sorry. A lot of folks that I see would have never had to be in this position in many ways. Sometimes who are making these arguments, and it's just it's not great. Not a great look for yeah. Anyway.
At some point, we're going to move on from the tattoo and the biography and have a race. If people want to cling on to those things for 8 months, be my guest. But I don't think this podcast is a great platform for that. After
Dave and Tullen, seriously, what the F do people want? You have actual fascists and Nazi in power, and people are freaking out about a tattoo. El Conniption. You guys are really underplaying the impact of the toxic X.com, the everything app. Brooklyn leftist vote on the Maine Democratic Senate primary.
Yeah, they don't give a crap.
Yeah, that's the thing is Mainers, I think, got it from here.
Good luck finding your perfect candidate.
Yeah, good luck.
Let's see. Blind imperialism Platner's the new John Fetterman. You guys are sick retards. I'd cancel my membership if your shitty app work. LOL. Well, here's what I will recommend. You should email at Majority Reporters right now, and I will show you how very quickly your membership will be canceled.
Yeah, efficiently.
Yeah.
I will. I
Hassan
promise you.
who said, if you compare this to Fetterman, it just proves you've only been alive for one election cycle.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Strong Fetterman vibes from the guy who calls it a genocide.
They both have tattoos and they're both white men, though. So
Was Fetterman's military service when he chased the gun?
Lord-
the gun?
Lord Neekin, I wouldn't say I'm worried about him being another Fetterman, but possibly another Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, look, I don't think that it's irrational to be suspicious of where he's going to go. He's not been a politician before. I would argue that, like, even like, Obama could hide in many respects what his actual politics were.
Yeah.
And by, projecting, at least in the context of that first election in 2008, and certainly in his Senate run, to be more of a populist and an organizer. Like, he was a community organizer. That was his big thing. And then he shows fealty to the biggest potential establishment players in the world. Kristen Sinema was, when she went into Congress, was a Green Party activist. Was that it?
previously,
And,
yeah.
Wrote about necropolitics academically.
And she, obviously went like a completely different direction. It is the case, I think, if you have someone like a Chuck Schumer, for instance, who has been a politician for 40 years, that you can have a sense of where he's going to be 5 years from now. Now, in the case of Chuck Schumer, I would suspect that is, sitting on his couch, and that's good. But the point being is that, like, yes, these are risky endeavors. When you're going to get anybody who is a neophyte to politics, it is very, very hard to assess where they're going to land.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's very difficult to assess this.
One dissimilarity with. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
And you're looking for clues. You're looking for clues in terms of like their past behavior. You're looking for clues in terms of like their associations and whatnot. And they may end up in a place that there's no indication of where they're going to end up. So, like, the question is really very much one of, like, Mills or Platner.
Yeah.
And then which one is capable of beating Collins, and which one has the potential to be a much better senator?
And I'll just say on Tulsi, people can go back to the archives. We welcomed her endorsing endorsing Bernie in 2016, but the clues were already there, and we would never even gloss over her without mentioning that she was trolling Obama about being not strong enough on radical Islamic terror, and also that her entire background came from being a part of a homophobic anti-Muslim cult.
Yeah, that's
like,
what's
the clues
so
are way more strong with Tulsi, and always were, than they are with Graham.
I mean, now I'm remembering, like, Michael, myself, and then at the time, Anna, were getting a bunch of crap from leftists for saying those things about Tulsi Gabbard. So, I mean, I'm not sure these comparisons, it's I don't know. But
Also,
luckily, many of these people are not in Maine and don't understand the
A
politics
new
of it.
poll, Governor Janet Mills, 55% disapproval, 43% approval.
He's
So.
doubling her in a poll to start this race, like in terms of support, and everybody else has 1%.
Yep.
California resistance. Sam, I donated to Graham. Human beings are complex. He is allowed to be too. Yeah, I mean, look, I agree that human beings are allowed to be complex, but at the end of the day, I care about what's going to be the best chance to beat Susan Collins. Mm-hmm. That is A for me. And then B, what kind of senator are we going to get from that? Because again, like if Joe Manchin showed up and said, I will take this Republican seat tomorrow, and I had a crystal ball and it says like Joe Manchin's the only one to do it and he could do it, I would take it.
Yeah.
I would take it because we need to get as many seats in the Senate as possible. And when I look at Mills, who congratulates Susan Collins, and I look at Platner, I think that like, okay, I don't think Mills can win. I really genuinely don't. Because I just don't think you can go up with something that is marginally different than people have been comfortable with for literally decades.
Also, her approval ratings are plummeting.
And she says she won't get rid of the filibuster, for example. Like, do we care about that at all?
I'm talking like electability, and then moving into like what kind of senator they would be. I think Platner would be better. And so, but I'm not a Maine voter, but that's the way I would vote if I was in Maine. And I want that seat to turn. And it is quite clear that he is the best opportunity for that seat to turn, which is why, I would like to have her on.
I don't care that he's from Maine. I mean, I have all those complications. I'm a vet from Maine. I don't care about any of that. I want that seat to turn.
And it's about building political power and being serious about it. And that's why I get a little impatient with this discourse, to put it mildly.
Well, particularly the folks who overgeneralize, saying, how could you even give a vet a chance? Have you listened to this show?
The anti-veteran stuff really pisses me off.
It's ultra stuff, which has never been, like, even going back to Michael days, never been part of this program. I'm sorry.
No.
Frankly,
going back to Janine and I days, that's never been part of this program.
As somebody who signed up to serve and was politely asked to leave before his contract was finished by the military, I am offended.
All right. Final I am of the day. I didn't realize how long we went. Patrick Butt David. You guys make some salient points about Platner, but have you considered that if I'm wrong about anything ever, my ego will shrivel like a pumpkin left on the porch through winter? Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.